Again, 5.8 starts on page 294. There are two types of problems in this section. One, you will actually graph the parabola inequality. If you didn't get a calculator when you came in, please do so now. You will need one for this section. We've already done problems earlier in the year with graphing inequalities where we had to graph the line and then shade the appropriate side. You're doing the same thing today, except you're graphing parabolas instead of just graphing a line. And again, your calculator will do all this for you. Will tell you your points, everything you need to get it graphed correctly. So let's graph y is greater than negative x squared minus 6x minus 7. So if it's already got y by itself, which I think all of the problems in homework will, you're ready to hit y equals and get that typed in. Now, with statistics, when we use these calculators, we've been turning the plots on. So when you hit your y equals button, if you've got a plot turned on, if you're using one of these, make sure you go up and turn that off before you try to graph. Make sure you use negative instead of minus. The other thing you'll probably have to do is go in and turn your apps and turn your n equals application back on. I don't know if they're on your personal calculators, but on the yellow ones, they've probably been turned off at some point. So if you need that, if you don't have the inequality signs down below when you hit your y equals screen, you are not running the n equals app, and you need to turn that on. So hit your apps key. It's the only colored key with colored letters there. Your apps key, and you go down to n equals. It should be number 7. Everybody good with that? And then if it's not on, when you hit enter there, it'll bring up show Texas Instruments, whatever it'll say, press any key, do that, it'll go back. And then you should have the inequalities. So how do we get the inequality that we need? We need greater than here. What do we have to push to get that? Alpha, and then which one? Trace key to change that. And then we hit graph. Remember, your table needs, or your window needs adjusting. You should be able to do that on your own if it's not perfectly centered. So you see then what yours should look like. The view I saw out there looked like this, so we should be on the right track. What you're still going to have to do, though, is get points out of your calculator. So we hit second table. I would look at the graph and see which point, where the points are. There's no point in looking at x equals 5. They're clear over here, and you're going to be way off of your graph paper. So looking at your graph, that's where you can figure out which x values you need to be looking at. And I would say right in this area, between -1 and -5, would be good points to get. So we would have -4, 1. What's another point on there that we could graph? Easy point, close to that. -2, 1. That will kind of give you some information about where the vertex is at. Where's it? Very good. -3, 2. And I'd probably get one more on each side. Where's it at -1? -2. And it would also be at -5, -2, I think. Yeah. Now, the one thing you have to keep in mind, if you go back to your graph screen, then, is it a dotted or a solid? Parabola. It's dotted, and it's dotted, remember, because we don't have the equal to sign underneath our greater than. So it is a dotted parabola, and you would need to make sure and show that on your homework graphs. Question? We'll go in and change the window. Okay, well, hold on. That's all you have to do, except what do you need to add? You just need the shade on the outside. So that's all those will look like. That's all you have to do on the homework. Pretty simple if you use your calculator. I'm not going to do another one of those examples because the other part of the section is more difficult. So this should be pretty simple stuff that we've done several times before with the exception of the shading part. But again, you shouldn't have any trouble with that using your calculator. If you do, let me know. So we're going to go on then. You notice the title of the section is Graphing and Solving Inequalities, Quadratic Inequalities. So the second part is solving the inequalities. We just graphed them. Look over at your homework to illustrate the difference there on page 298. Problems 1 through 4 there, for instance, the directions say graph. Those have, they say y greater than or equal to whatever. If it looks like that, if it's got y and then the inequality, that should tell you that you are graphing that parabola. You're going to graph and shade. The rest of them, though, where it says solve, like down on number 6, it said the inequality with a 0, x squared. Doesn't even matter what problem. But it's greater than 0 or less than 0, so they look different. So the rest of this, of the notes, will be focusing on these problems. This is what we're going to be doing. We've already done the graphing. That means graph and shade, and that means we're going to be solving. You don't know what that means yet. That's what we're getting ready to do. Questions on that? A lot of times kids are confused on which problems they do what on, so I wanted to cover that. And with most Algebra 2 stuff, there is more than one method to solving these. I'll cover both, and I really don't care which one you use on your homework. X squared minus 3x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. This first method will be solving graphically, which should tell you you're going to be graphing it. You don't have to draw the graph necessarily. You kind of got to sketch it a little bit. But it should tell you that's the goal. We're going to graph it and get our answers from the graph. So with all of these problems, what you're going to have to find are the zeros, where it crosses the x-axis. So if I'm going to solve graphically here, then I'm probably going to type that in my calculator. So I would go back to your y equals and type in x squared minus 3x plus 2. Now, go back and change that inequality since this doesn't really matter. We're not worried about this right now. We're graphing y equals that. So change your sign there to equals. It's going to be like that for all of this, all the solving. You're going to have it set to equals. So you hit alpha y equals there to change that sign and graph it. For these problems, you won't need the y-axis. This is not a graph problem like it was in the first examples that we did. All we're doing here is we're going to get a quick sketch. What we need to find out, though, is where exactly that parabola crosses. How do we find that on our calculator? Because it's pretty tough to tell looking at that graph where that does cross. Second trace. We need not second trace. We have second trace, not trace. We want to calculate, right? So calculate the 0. And then we have to set up our boundaries on the left and right side. And that one's pretty close. It's tough, but you can still get your point in there. So what's one of them? What's the first one on the left part? What? 1. X equals 1 is your first one. And you can draw this is basically your x-axis without the y-axis on it. Just got the x-axis. So what did we get for the other one? 1 and 2. So it crosses at 1 and it crosses at 2. Those are the two roots. Those are the zeros, where it crosses the x-axis. That's what we've been finding this entire chapter. So we found it crosses at x equals 1 and 2. When we plot these, since this is greater than or equal to, would we have open or closed circles when we plot those on? Closed circles, since it's also equal to with a line under it, we would have closed circles at 1 and closed circles at 2. Now, does this parabola open up or down? It opens up. So what I mean by a quick sketch is that I don't need any definite points. I don't need anything other than a quick sketch to show you where it crosses the x-axis and where it opens. Now, this part right here, getting your answer by looking at that, is where I usually lose a few people. It's pretty simple. Some people just look at it and they know they don't have any problem with it. Other people can stare at it for 48 hours and they still can't quite figure out what we're talking about. This right here is key. We are looking for where it is greater than or equal to 0. Where is this parabola that we just graphed right here? Where is this parabola greater than or equal to 0? Anywhere above this line is greater than. So if I were to ask you, where is this parabola above the x-axis here, what would you say? Would you say it's in the middle here or on each side? Where is the parabola above the x-axis? So here's your line. I'm getting the look I always get. Here's the line. Where is the parabola above the x-axis? Is it on, not looking for numbers, is it on this side and this side is basically left and right, or is it in the middle? Right. It's on the left and the right, so you're kind of starting to catch on. That's what usually happens. Anywhere in here, where's the parabola? Above or below the line? Below. It is below. That's less than. That's not what we're looking for. Anywhere over here, though, where's the parabola at? Above or below? Above. Above, and that's what we're looking for. Where it is greater than or equal to 0. So what we would say is anywhere over here, I'll shade this way, anywhere over there, it's above, right? Anywhere over here, where is it? Above or below? Below. Above. It is above. It's up here, right? So anywhere over here, if I pick this point right here, the parabola is going to be somewhere way up high, right? So what your final answer is, you're going to tell me, where is it? So anywhere from 2 on, how would we write that as an inequality? X is greater than or equal to 2. Anywhere over there on that side, it is above. Where else then? How would we write this inequality? Anywhere to the left of 1. Less than or equal to 1. And that is your final answer to the problem. Not if it were in the middle. If it's in the middle, well, we'll probably do one of those for you. What do you do? You'll still be able to find integral. One of your homework problems is that. I'll see if I have an example. That's a good question. But you'll still be able to see where it's above and below.